On today's show, Kendrick Perkins calls the Heat a bunch of goons and compared them to the 2004 Pistons. Is he right? Plus, Jimmy Butler gets fined for making an obscene gesture during the Hawks series, and we discuss if the Sixers or the Raptors would be the better matchup in the next round. All of that and more on today's Locked On Heat.
Our Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast covering all things Miami Heat. I'm Wes Goldberg here with David Ramil. However you may be tuning in on YouTube, Odyssey, or wherever you get your podcast, thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. We'll talk about whether we want to see the Sixers or the Raptors in the next round, and we'll get to Jimmy Butler getting fined in a bit. But first, let's hear from Kendrick Perkins, who said this on PTI.
Why do you think Trae Young wasn't more effective?
Well, it was the game plan of Eric Spoelstra, and two, it just shows you how great of a defense the Miami Heat has, the personnel, right? I mean, boxes and elbows, staying disciplined, getting physical with them, multiple bodies. And when I look at this Heat and I look at their defense, they're level under the Boston Celtics. Those two teams are the top defensive teams in the NBA. We all praise about offense. Look, offense win you games, defense win you championships. And I said this a while back. The Miami Heat teams give me those 2004 Detroit Pistons vibes. The way that they hang their hats on the defensive end. And that's why they're my dark horse to winning it all. Because of the depth, because of the tenacity, them goons from Dade County. All they do is go put that ski mask on and be waiting on you in that dark alley.
So what do we think of Perkins comparing Miami's defense to getting jumped by a bunch of masked men in a dark alleyway?
I think it speaks pretty poorly about Miami's reputation around the country. It's like it's just such a divergent view from like, oh, the glitz and glamour of South Beach and coming here for vacation, the ultimate, party trip and everything else. But somehow, somewhere along the way, you're probably going to get jumped by a bunch of ski mask wearing men. I don't know.
It's actually a really good point that you make just now. The Lakers don't have this reputation, right?
No.
They don't have this reputation. They have more of a reputation of rolling over like a puppy dog. That's kind of their reputation right now. But you don't consider South Beach. I mean, of course, there's certain parts that you don't want to be around, but just like any city. But it's a good point how like Pat Riley and this team has sort of carved out that weird reputation in the glitz and glamour of South Beach and Miami Vice and all of these things. But I like it. I'm here for it. I'm here for the Goon Squad. I'm here for all of that. The Heat have embraced it. I think if they heard that from Kendrick Perkins, I think they would be like, yeah, that's great. We are the ski mask wearing guys in the alley that you don't want to run into. That's who we are. You better believe it.
I hope they don't take an Indiana Pacers era photo like with like ski masks on or anything like that. Like I don't want like old Hurricanes teams would have leaned into that 100%.
Oh man.
Yeah, like the Catholics versus convicts type era and things of that sort. They would have had a like ski mask. They would have gotten off the team plane and wearing ski masks or something like that. I don't think they're necessarily going to buy into it. Do you prefer them goons or goon squad over like say the doghouse lineup that we've been talking about?
Like
recently?
all of it, just goons. They're in the kennel. They're a bunch of goons in the kennel wearing ski masks. That's what they are. I love it. Okay. Let's put them all together. The Hurricanes they are kind of the new Hurricanes, right? Like the 80s, 90s Hurricanes. They had that convict thing. That was the branding. That was what was around the team, and they loved it. They leaned into it, like you said, and the Heat have kind of taken on that mantle, and it's a really good point. The 2004 Pistons comparison, I think I tweeted the Kendrick Perkins line yesterday, and a lot of people in my mentions were just sort of like, no, the 2004 Pistons, so much disrespect. They won the title that year behind a really historically great. I mean, they were a really, really great defense. I was looking at the stats. That team was ranked 19th in offensive rating. This Heat team is 12th in offensive rating. It's not two middling offenses with elite defenses. I think it's a pretty good comparison.
I think the rationale when everybody thinks of those Pistons squads is because they were superstarless in a way that perhaps Miami is as well. They were bumping into a Lakers team that had signed an older Gary Payton, an older Karl Malone. They were both quote unquote ring chasing alongside Kobe Bryant.
Hey, even an older version of Gary Payton worked out for the Heat a couple years later. So they couldn't make it work with that Gary Payton. The Heat did. To your point,
I just that Lakers squad was kind of beat up. Remember, they had been through the emotional ringer and everything else like that. It's kind of tough to equate this Heat team. I mean, I see where he's getting at. The defensive comparison certainly is a valid one. I just think Miami's offense is certainly much more potent and certainly has the ignitable aspect to it that Pistons squad never did. Like a lot of their offense was precipitated off of fast breaks, steals, turnovers, things of that sort, forcing those kinds of things, getting to the free throw line, Rasheed Wallace occasionally spotting up from three, things of that sort. Miami, very, very different, I think, just in terms of offense. But I could see the general principle there. Sure, whatever. As long as it leads to a title, I don't care. Make whatever comparisons you want. It's all good.
Ben Wallace, undersized, versatile center, changed the game. Bam Adebayo, undersized, versatile center, just took Trae Young out of the playoffs. Phillips, managing point guard. Kyle Lowry, game managing point guard. Rip Hamilton, you can make that like his just sort of freewheeling, one-man offense, kind of similar to what Tyler Herro provides this Heat team. Wallace, a tough, gritty power forward who had a lot of experience at that point, making corner threes. PJ Tucker kind of doing the same thing. I like it. I'm here for it. That team didn't have Jimmy Butler. This team does have Jimmy Butler. And this team, their offense is better. Like I said, this was the 12th ranked offense in the league. Pistons were 19th. This Heat team are closer to top 10 than that Pistons team, which was closer to bottom 10 in the NBA. So this offense is certainly better. But if they win, it's going to be like what Kendrick Perkins said. They hang their hats on defense, which what does that even really mean? Hang your hat on something. I don't know.
I think it's the hard hat kind of thing. Or you put your hat up on a coat hack when you go to work.
See, I always thought coat like a coat hat kind of thing. Yeah, maybe it is a hard hat. Anyway, more hard hats here. All of this begs the question, though, David. Which Heat players would you be most afraid to run into in a dark alley? I want your top five. I want your top five. Let's go. Your fifth Heat player that you'd be most afraid to run into an alley.
Haywood Highsmith. Haywood Highsmith would make my top five. Yeah.
Haywood Highsmith.
Yeah. Incredible reach. I mean, have you seen the shoulders on that kid? I mean, he's huge. He's built like it. I know. I think that kind of the G League scrappiness, the willingness to fight for his career, will translate to the back alley kind of thing. I think it could work very well there. That's my number 5 pick. Number 4, I've got Bam Adebayo. I think he's got the country strong for sure. I think he's a fighter. You say one bad comment about his mama, he'll probably put you through a wall. So that's 100% given there. Number 3, I've got Markeith Morris. Not only is he, more than willing to fight, aside from Nikola Jokic, he's also got the twin factor, so he's going to be there with his brother, and they're both going to whoop your ass. Number 2, I've got Udonis Haslem. A little surprise there. And number 1, I've got PJ Tucker. Like that guy, like 6'5", all of PJ. I know he's into fashion and shoes and everything else like that, but I do not want to get into a fight.
Yeah, he'll kick you in the face with a pair of rare vintage Jordans,
and then wipe them down with your shirt afterwards. Like he'll take your shirt and wipe it off. It's like, oh, you got blood on my Jordans, and he's wiping them off. Yeah, no good.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood. All right, here's my top 5. You ready?
All right. Yes.
Jimmy Butler, number 5.
No way.
He's
a lover, not a
shoulders,
fighter.
Man. I'd rather see Haywood Highsmith in the alley than Jimmy Butler. That dude. He's gonna be all caffeinated. He's gonna be all hyped up on 8 cups of big face espresso.
All right, we'll see. Okay, I can see that point. All right, who's number 4?
I got Markeith Morris, number 4.
Okay.
That goes without you explained it. I got PJ Tucker, number 3.
Ooh. Okay.
I've got Mary Yurtseven, number 2.
What?
Well, he's 7 feet. He's the biggest guy on the roster. He's 7 foot tall, 240 pounds. These Turkish guys, they know things, man. They know things, man. I don't want to run into him in a dark alley. I'm sorry. They know things. And then I got Udonis Haslem #1. How do you not have Udonis Haslem #1? He'll bring his several pit bulls with him. You don't care.
Maybe I could see.
He probably owns several ski masks.
He's got a Monday ski mask. I don't know.
Yeah, he's great. He's like Kanye right now.
Yeah, I could see that. I probably should have. I could have flip flopped him pretty easily. I just thought PJ deserves his flowers when it comes to that. But Yurtseven, that pick really throws me off. You'd rather have Yurtseven like over Bam and Adebayo? I mean, come on.
Bam wouldn't hurt a fly. Bam would not hurt a fly. Yurtseven, I'm telling you, he's way bigger than Bam. He is enormous. He's legit 7 feet tall. Well, he's also 240 pounds. That guy is enormous. He's a hulking human being.
So Bam weighs as much, and he's like 7 inches shorter. That's the whole thing. More compact, guys, man. Stronger. All right.
You don't mess with that. You don't mess with that.
I haven't been to Turkey. I can't speak for it. I'm sure we're going to get some mentions in our comments, but I can't wait to hear the feedback on that.
Well, Jimmy Butler got some feedback from the NBA League office regarding his obscene gesture in Game 5 against the Hawks. We'll talk about that next. But first, David, tell them about BetOnline.
Yeah, absolutely. .net, your #1 source for all your betting stats and sports info. You can record this on the afternoon. Not too late to place a bet whether or not the Sixers are able to advance past the Toronto Raptors and determine Miami's next round opponent. But you can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. That's in full swing, no pun intended. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sporting wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Wes, tell them, folks, about the Built Bars.
Well, first of all, I think the pun is intended in the ad copy. I think that's why it's in there. But
no, it's not in the ad copy. I mentioned
it's not. You added that?
This is all me. Right. Spur of the moment, baby.
I know you never intended puns. You're not a pun person.
Never.
Today's episode is brought to you by Built Bar. Built Bar is truly a standout among protein bars with its exceptional nutritional profile and so many delicious flavors. Built Bar is the favorite protein bar of many discerning fitness trainers and fitness enthusiasts alike. All Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate, taste better than your current protein bar, and are perfect for an after-workout snack or some needed energy in the middle of a busy day. Built Bars are low in calories and carbs, are high in fiber, they are packed with protein. Just check out the macros. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. When you compare that to most protein bars, Built Bars are a clear winner. Plus, they come in great flavors: mint brownie, raspberry, salted caramel, cookies and cream, and more. They're all delicious, and new flavors are coming out all the time. And if you haven't tried the Puffs, then you're missing out on one of Built Bar's best-tasting products. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're covered in 100% real chocolate, and they come in churro, coconut marshmallow, and banana cream pie flavors. So here's our offer. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off on your order. Again, use that promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast, nightly recaps of every NBA game with analysis from our local experts. It's free. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. Sixers, Raptors tonight, and the Sixers have a chance to close out the series or get embarrassed horribly. We'll get to Doc Rivers deflecting blame in a minute. But first, we got to get to the news that Jimmy Butler has been fined by the NBA $15,000 for humping air during the Heat's Game 5 win over the Hawks. Also, the Heat themselves were fined $15K for posting the GIF of Jimmy Butler's air humping on Twitter. David, is this fair?
Is it fair? I want to know the play that precipitated that, by the way. Like, at what point in time did Jimmy
Max Strus.
You know what? The steal and layup?
It was Max Strus, 10 points in 67 seconds. And I think Jimmy was just humping in response to all of that great Max Strusiness. Juicy Strus.
Given the topic here, I'm not sure that I want to mix those two words together. It's I think it's a little ridiculous. Like shame on Bally Sports for having covered that and they caught that and put it out in the air.
And they cut away so quickly. They cut away. Well, they saw them celebrating, and then as soon as Jimmy started humping, they cut away immediately.
Yeah, that particular celebration. No, well, they caught just enough of Omer Yurtseven, your tough guy in the alley, going, I'm trying to block Jimmy Butler's crotchal area from gyrating any further. I don't know, man. I think it's a little ridiculous. It just happened to be caught on film here, and the reality is that probably a lot worse happens on any NBA sideline. We've seen
find the cameraman. They didn't find the it's his fault. It's his fault.
The producer, that Bally's producer, is going to get in trouble. No, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And finding the heat for it, for making I can't believe you pronounced it a GIF, by the way. I know that's GIF.
Did I do it wrong? I don't want to have this conversation. I'm sorry. GIF. We'll go back and edit it and just whatever people hear what they want to hear. No, you're right. Like the poor social media intern who ended up tweeting that out, or whoever it was, like that he could just fire that and make, like, that's probably the entire salary of that person is that $15 grand. Like for Jimmy Butler, you know, he's charging $20 for a cup of coffee. You can make that all up with, you know, big base brand merchandise. But with the poor social media guy, you know, that's like a whole year's worth of work probably for that guy. Like it's crazy.
I hope not. I mean, that speaks more about the Miami Heat hiring practices than anything else. But
well, it's funny. I was sitting next to Jeremy Taché, who runs social for Bally Sports during the games, right? Not the Heat. The Heat tweeted it. The Bally Sports, they didn't tweet it, and he was going back and forth about whether or not he should tweet it. Right. And I just said, you always want to be safe in those things. Like, just, you know, you tweeted out the play, and then actually we tweeted it out too from the Locked On Heat Twitter account. I took his and then chopped it up and then looped the Jimmy Butler humping thing and then tweeted that out as a GIF. And we haven't gotten fined yet, but I was like, Joe, just you tweet out the whole video and then just let people have fun with it. And that's what he did. And then he was like, man, he saw it like going viral. He's like, maybe I should have tweeted it out. Maybe I should have. Good thing he didn't. Because then, you know, he could have, the Bally Sports guy getting fined $15K. But you're right. It's a little ridiculous. It's an obscene gesture, which is in line with all the obscene gestures that the NBA has fined for this playoffs, right? Was it Monty Williams got 15 for criticizing officials? Was it Kyrie with the middle finger got 15K? Like that? It's the going rate for obscene gestures. The difference is all that stuff was done on purpose. Like, you know, people sticking the middle finger to the fans is done on purpose. You know, like criticizing officials in the post-game presser or dropping an F-bomb in a post-game presser is done on purpose. Like Jimmy Butler wasn't trying to be on camera. He wasn't even playing in the game. Right. That's a little silly. Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know what else to say about it. Like, you know, it is kind of ridiculous. Again, I'm sure a lot worse has happened.
I guess that's the next question: was it worth it? I think the answer has to be yes, right?
I mean, for Jimmy, that equates to like a half an hour of gameplay at like $15,000. I'm sure, not even. That's one post. Oh, and most of those will probably get appealed anyway, and I guess the fine will likely get rescinded. It's just all about the league, not necessarily even transparency, about the fake process of trying to go through. It kind of reminds me of the whole thing that they went through when they were, you know, the Heat were slapped on the wrist for their alleged tampering on acquiring Kyle Lowry and things of that sort. It's like you just have to go through the motions publicly, and I just don't think it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but worth it. I'm glad he did it, and I hope he does it again. I hope he does it Monday night. I hope he
grabs.
He's out there in uniform.
I don't know about
pumping air all the time. Like after his first bucket, I just hope he humps the stanchion.
You know, maybe I'm you know, as a parent, I could see the kind of. I don't want to go like I forget the character's name from The Simpsons. Won't somebody please think of the children kind of thing?
Flanders.
Like, no, it's not. Is it Ned Flanders' wife? Yeah, there we go. Maud Flanders. I don't want to go that route, but at the same time, I can just imagine like having to explain that to like a 5-year-old boy or girl. Be like, oh, what was Jimmy doing? He was dancing, son. That's all it was. He was just dancing.
All right. Well, like, we could talk about some more explanations because Doc Rivers has got plenty of explanations. We'll talk about that
and
next.
Excuses,
explanations, excuses, all sorts. But first, let's talk about Rock Auto, David.
Yeah, this episode is brought to everybody by RockAuto.com. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure often pointless or seemingly intimidating questioning and wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts that they happen to carry on their computer? You've got a computer at home or in your pocket, which means you've got access to family-owned business of 20-plus years. That's RockAuto.com. They've been helping everybody for over 2 decades. And their website is so easy to use. You'll find everything you're looking for. You don't have to go through any of those kind of tough moments at the auto parts store. Just a few clicks, you get exactly what you need. You save time and you save money because their low prices are the same for everybody. So you can find exactly what you're looking for. I did it when I was replacing my wife's brake light. I've mentioned this several times before, but it was just so easy, such an easy process. So I wholeheartedly recommend the use of rockauto.com. What is it? What did you say? You say I was bragging?
Bragging. You're bragging. Yeah, you keep
mentioning this
every time we do this read. You're bragging.
Hey, I'm a handy guy. What can I say?
You are a handy guy, apparently.
Yeah. Go to rockauto.com right now. See all the parts for your car or truck. Right, Locked On. I don't know if Handy is what he was doing when he was dancing on the sideline there, but anyway, right, Locked On in their "How did you hear about us?" box, so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. That's rockauto.com.
Back here with Locked On Heat, Sixers, Raptors tonight. We don't know who will win, but we do know that if the Sixers lose, and what was a 3-0 lead goes to a Game 7, it won't be Doc Rivers that is to blame. Here's what he said to reporters when asked about his long history of blowing 3-1 leads in the playoffs.
Well, it's easy to use me as an example, but I wish y'all would tell the whole story with me, all right? My Orlando team is the HC. No one gives me credit for getting up against the Pistons who won the title. That was an HC. Go look at that. I want you to go back and look at that roster. I dare you to go back and look at that roster, and you would say, what a hell of a coaching job. Really. I mean, the Clipper team that we lost 3-1. Chris Paul didn't play the first 2 games. He was playing on one leg. We didn't have home court. And then the last one, to me, is the one we blew. That's the one I said, we blew that. Now, it was in the bubble, and anything can happen in the bubble. There's no home court. Game 7 would have been in L.A., but it just happened. So I would say with me, some of them is I got to do always. I always say my own responsibility. And then some of it is circumstances happen. This one, let's win it, and we don't have to talk about it.
So first of all, just a couple of points to correct there. He lost to the 2003 Pistons team that did not win the title. It was the 2004 Pistons team that won the title, so just a little bit of correction there, not to make this Locked On 2003, 2004 era Detroit Pistons, but whole lot of excuse making. He blamed it on the Pistons that won the title, which is not the team that he played. He blamed it on the coronavirus pandemic. What do you think about Doc Rivers defending himself when asked? I thought was a very valid question by the Philadelphia media regarding his long and decorated history of blowing leads in the playoffs.
A lot of circumstance there. I think Doc was right in pointing that out. And I also wish he just hadn't mentioned a damn thing about it. You know what? It happened. It's all in the past. Look ahead. Like, to not acknowledge, like, it's disingenuous for him to say that we don't acknowledge that he's a great coach when he was just recently nominated as one of the top 15 coaches in NBA history. And, I know he only has the one title with the 2008 Ubuntu Boston Celtics, etc. But that was a masterful coaching job. He's done a fantastic job every place he's been. He's done a great job with the Sixers. Did a great job, of course, with the Clippers and Celtics. Even did a great job with the Magic that he just threw under the bus, as big a bus as he possibly can.
Wasn't Trace McGrady on that team? Like
2003,
he was like, he was on the team. Like, it was like, look, that team I coached was a bunch of bums. I was like, what? You're
hardly had any Hall of Famers on it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a little ridiculous. He's already preparing himself for the eventual problems that are going to happen when they do wind up losing this series. Because it just seems like he's already saying, "Oh, you know what? There were injuries. And next, he's going to be pulling out James Harden, being out of shape."
What's the excuse? What's the excuse if they blow this? Is like James Harden was not in shape. That wasn't my fault. Ben Simmons wasn't around.
The whole Ben Simmons saga threw everything off kilter.
And let's face it, Joel Embiid was great. He wasn't the MVP. That was Nikola Jokic. Is Embiid even that good, really?
Joel gets hurt, and midway through the series, we wind up wiping the floor with Toronto. That's not my fault. I can't control his injury. He's playing with one thumb out there.
Yeah. I would have given him my thumb if I could have, but that's just, you can't. You just can't do that these days. In the 90s, we used to be able to do that kind of stuff. But
Riley would have given his thumb.
I don't know. I had two takes. My first reaction was, this is not the first time we've heard something like this from Doc Rivers. He was questioned about something earlier in the season about using a timeout or not, or something rotation-wise, or what. It was in the middle of the regular season. He goes, you would never ask Greg Popovich this question. You would never ask, somebody else this question. He's really defensive this year. There was I think it was at the beginning of the playoffs. Somebody was asking about Paul Reed, and he was just like, enough with Paul Reed or something. And he was like, I'm the coach. I think I know a little bit more than you do. And it's like, all right, like, that's kind of why we're asking you these. That's kind of the point of this whole media scrum thing, is that you do, like, we're just asking the question, we being the media. And it just, he gets so defensive about this stuff.
It happened when the Sixers were in Miami last, towards the end of the regular season. Like, he brought in DeAndre Jordan. Somebody asked why DJ's playing, and then he's like, oh, DJ just doesn't have it anymore. We showed him a highlight film of all of his highlights, and there weren't any for the last 2 years. So that tells you where DJ's at. It's like, well, what the fuck is DJ doing on the team? Why did you bring him on here? Just so you could say, oh, DJ, he sucked? I just wanted to have a whipping boy out on the roster.
Exactly.
I mean, what's that all about? Like, this is your guy from the Clippers days.
It's crazy.
And all of a sudden you bring him on there, and it's like, oh, yeah, DJ used to be good, but now he sucks. It's like, okay, thanks, Doc. I like Doc. I mean, he's always good for a quote.
Yeah, everybody likes Doc.
He's not defensive, but at the same time, it's just like the kind of the machinations he goes through in order to defend himself from something. It's like, well, if you don't get into that trouble in the first place, or you don't make those bad decisions, none of this happens, And
right.
I like.
I mean, if I wasn't such a terrible coach, I would not be blowing these 3-1 leads. But that's not my fault. That's just the way I am.
I don't think I've ever heard Eric Spoelstra say anything like this.
Never. That was my second take. Eric Spoelstra would never. And it's not to single out Spo and put him on a pedestal. Most coaches would never do something like this. But Spo is just like the complete opposite of this, right? Like, he's always
in the Orlando bubble
to the other extreme.
Goal on Dragic or Bam.
Yeah, it's washed. Right. He always no excuses. Next and it's almost like its own extreme cliche thing. That we could criticize that if we want and just be like, all right, you're just gonna say that the whole time. Okay, that's fine. But that's how he is. It's no excuses. And I think that matters to a team. And I think, Game 5, when you're without Kyle Lowry and without Jimmy Butler, that team has that confidence of no excuses, next man up, whatever cliche that you want to throw out there. They believed it enough to win the game, right? It helped. And you can't help but wonder if the Sixers were down one of their star players, let alone two of them, they don't win that game against Atlanta, right? They probably don't win that game. I just don't see that kind of response coming from that Sixers team. And that it's not all on Doc Rivers and it's not all on Eric Spoelstra, but it certainly is a part of it, right? And so there's that. Well, that said,
you build up over the course of the season, like, player confidence. Like, you have to I mean, we heard this during the post-game presser from Max Strus to everybody else that was on there. It was just like, you know what? You prepare for this all season long. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready, things of that sort. Right. Like, the mentality is there from day one. Injuries are going to happen. Somebody's going to fall for some reason or another. Everybody's got to step up. Right. And we have Max confidence and faith in your ability to step up for us. And that's something that is missing from Doc Rivers' teams.
Right. Max Strus is not triggering Jimmy Butler's libido with 10 points in 67 seconds in the first week of the season. He's doing it now because he's got that confidence. He's been able to ramp up to the point where he's able to do something like that. That said, Sixers-Raptors Game 6 tonight. If the Raptors win, it would go to a Game 7 tied at 3-3. It would be played in Philadelphia, the Game 7 would be. But I think all the momentum would certainly be favoring Toronto. Even with Matisse Thybulle as a part-time guy,
they won their
part-time status. He hasn't been very helpful when he's been on the court. Right. Unless James Harden can get going, I'm starting to think that the Raptors are going to pull this thing off. What do you think?
It all depends on Embiid, right? Like,
it does, right?
He was probably a little shell-shocked immediately after the injury, and he's already spoken about the fact that he was a little reluctant, a little hesitant when it comes to his offensive repertoire. He wasn't as dynamic as he has been in the past. Or maybe he just wasn't getting the same. He wasn't aggressive enough to draw all the flops and fouls that he does on a number of times throughout the game. So having said that, like, will he approach this game with that kind of mentality of like, I've got to make this happen. I've got to save this team in this season. I don't know. I really don't know.
I can't believe he's out there, David. This almost the same exact injury, right? No one injury is the same. Bam was out for 2 months with this injury, and he's out there the next game, and he's not even on the injury report. I can't believe I admire him. I credit him for playing through it. But I can't imagine that he is going to be any level of what he was, during his MVP caliber regular season. How could you be? It's a shooting hand. I just don't see it. I don't know. He doesn't. Can he make that game 3 falling away 3-pointer if the thumb ligament is torn at that point? Like, probably not, right? He's probably not making that shot. So
this is where it comes with the coaching and the veteran leadership and the culture. And unfortunately, not unfortunately, because honestly, I couldn't care less. But those things are missing in Philadelphia, right? They don't have that in the locker room. And that's the problem there, is that.
Well, it comes down to James Harden, doesn't it? Like, step up now. Like, for one game in the last 2 years, step up. Like, beat James Harden, and if he's not, if he's not the best player on the court tonight, or at least the second best player on the court behind Embiid, then the Sixers don't have a chance. And if he's not that in this game or in Game 7, the Sixers probably don't have a chance. It's crazy. And if they do blow this series, Doc Rivers will probably be fired. I don't see how he couldn't be.
I don't think so. So. Like,
who would you rather play? Who would you have the Heat rather play?
For many reasons, Toronto. I think I don't know if it would necessarily be easier. I just like the Raptors group in general better, like from the players and having to talk to them and things of that sort. I enjoy them more than the Sixers group. I think the names are bigger when it comes to the Sixers, and I guess you would view them as the better opponent also. The Raptors team is a little scrappier. Just a style of play too, of multiple times getting to the line. I don't know. I'd like Miami to beat Philadelphia. If I could go into it knowing that it would be a 4-game sweep or something like that, it'd be all for it, just to punch Philadelphia in the face and not have to hear about the Sixers and the process or anything else like that for several decades to come. Having said that, since I can't get that guarantee, I would prefer seeing the Raptors in place.
I think I'm with you. I think the Raptors are obviously, you use the word scrappy. I think it's a good one. Very competitive. You don't want to overlook them. I have a hard time seeing the Raptors beating the Heat in a series. They could probably get a game or two for sure, right? Absolutely. But I have a hard time seeing them. But then the Joel Embiid injury is a whole other factor. But, it is different when there's Embiid and the potential for James Harden to, kind of go back in time for a game or two a little bit and have a vintage night when that potential is on the other side of the court. I think I'm with you. I would probably rather see the Raptors because they just don't have that ceiling the same way that the Sixers do. But we'll find out. We'll see. But that'll do it for us for today and for the week. Remember to like and subscribe Locked On Heat on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Comment and leave a 5-star rating. You can reach us on Twitter at Locked On Heat. Thank you for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NBA. Locked On experts covering the biggest stories around the NBA every Monday through Friday in less than 30 minutes. It's free. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. That's it, David. Thanks for joining me.
You got it, Wes.